Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications.
It's really interesting because we're going to talk about this issue of body image. So body dysmorphic disorder is a mental condition in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance. A flaw that to others is either minor or not observable. But you may feel so ashamed and anxious that you may avoid many social situations. A new essay published by the Black Youth Project and written by Nigerian-American Cornell University freshman Gloria Oladipo argues that negative views of our own bodies can and do lead to an obsessive focus on our body's dysmorphia. Dysmorphia just means a deformity or abnormality in the shape or size of a specified part of the body. She writes in part, the stigma around having black features, the traditional large nose and fuller lips, can evoke a specific racialized body dysmorphia, one where these features are obsessively viewed as beastly, wow, and unattractive. My body looked damaged to me, a substantial barrier to the many goals that were already hard to achieve as a Black woman. Black body dysmorphia is a learned behavior, something that we as Black women do not do to ourselves. Undoing it and learning to even have a neutral relationship with our bodies is an arduous process that will require patience and self-compassion. You know, I find this whole issue of body dysmorphia specific to Black women very interesting because when I look at broader culture, and this is not just something that just kind of happened with the Kardashian clan, for as long as I can remember, we've had other women, specifically white women, trying to look like Black women. So, you know, I just find it, you know, it's really sad to think that as Black women, that some of us struggle with this lack of ability to appreciate our own beauty.
I'll be transparent. It took me a long time to accept the fact that I was beautiful in my own right. Why? Because the environment around me wasn't, outside of family and friends, of course, the environment around me wasn't, you know, reinforcing that fact. You know, I studied communications, and what do you do in that role? Like, you're in front of the camera or you're engaging with other people. And from jump, I was told, you know, straighten your hair, contour your nose, make sure your cheekbones look even higher than they already are without makeup. You know, I'm plus size, so I had to wear the Spanx and the pantyhose on top of the Spanx, and then, you know, sometimes even bind my arms so my arms would look smaller.
Wow.
You know, it's a lot on the psyche. So I can understand what she was saying with that, but at the end of the day, I hope she understands now that she's beautiful and that this is just an objective article, because she is in her own right, and the women who read that article are beautiful in their own right. And they don't need a Eurocentric point of view to reinforce their beauty. We have that from within, and that's what I had to find out for myself.
So what are your thoughts on this, Teresa? I mean, is this something that either you or someone in your family or some of your friends, have you seen anyone in your circle struggle with this issue of, to some degree, a lack of acceptance of our own unique form of beauty?
Gratefully, I would say no. So I'm actually the youngest of 8 siblings. One, I have my sister between my mom and my dad, and she's completely light-skinned. And so I'm always, you know, my mom's light-skinned, my dad, pretty much my complexion, a little darker. And I never really asked that question of, you know, why am I this color? If anything, I love my brownish tan. But what I did see that was a little interesting to me, because I am a reality show type of person, and my guilty pleasure outside of watching CNN. So
that's everybody's guilty.
Okay.
And Roland Martin. But Love and Hip Hop, you know, Atlanta, they featured something pretty recently about a Jamaican rapper. Literally comes from Jamaica. Her name was Spice, and she bleached her skin. So when they aired the episode, you know, because they taped it, you know, months in advance, and so when they finally aired it a few weeks ago, I was shocked because she was, you know, darker than me, and her explanation of why she did it was literally because she felt like in America she could just do it anything she wants and be, you know, from that international star to the American music star, and they would accept me in this way, right? And it was like almost if you looked a little different, then maybe your sound would change and people would start to more so be more loving to what you're deserving. And I think, again, you know, we just really need to think about American culture. That's not us. Yes, we're accepting, but accepting with the explanation, right?
Yeah.
Accepted with purpose. And so, you know, when I see that, it hurts my heart, you know, because I love the skin that I'm in, and there are many others that do. But for those who don't, I think we need to, you know, if we see each other in passing, the little things. I love you and you look beautiful. Girl, your hair is on fire. The little things like that, I think, you know, will help with some of that
Absolutely.
Unfortunate trauma that exists.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering also if there's a bit of a generational dynamic to this, because
Absolutely.
I think about, for example, when I started my locks over 20 years ago, my mother, I thought she was going to have a heart attack. She was like, "You will never get a job." Mm-hmm. You know, it was like complete, you know, and, you know, there's obviously, you alluded to this. Your hair's nappy, you know, that whole situation happened, and, you know, they just had to learn to love it. You know, I didn't really care, but you know, they had to. They grew into accepting it, and also this issue of my mother's beautiful. My mother's absolutely beautiful, but to this day, she will complain about her nose. She just feels like if I could just have a slimmer nose, you know. To this day, she is 90.
Wow.
And she still struggles
Wow.
with her nose, which to me, I mean, she's beautiful. So it's there. So I'm just, once again, I'm saying, is this a generational thing, or is this something that still, because we don't oftentimes see a lot of reflections of our beauty proliferating our culture, that unfortunately this is something that still some of our younger girls still have to deal with?
It's definitely a generational thing, but I do think this younger generation is getting better with image, because thankfully there are, if only a little bit, there's still more images that look like us than it was for my time as it was for your time.
Absolutely.
I was just at a career day at a high school in DC, and even before I even spoke, I was just walking the halls and seeing the students, you know, 15, 16 years old, just kind of crisscrossing the hallways, going to class and whatever. And these girls had the most beautiful afros I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Crochet braids, box braids, you know, straightened out hair, wands, all this stuff. And I'm only maybe 10, 15 years older than you. Would never have caught me with an afro like that in high school, ever, because it would have been a distraction,
Right, yeah.
right? You know, it would have been, oh, I can't see the teacher because of your fro. And the fact that they don't even have that.
But some schools are still
Some
penalizing.
schools are doing that.
And that was a point that I wanted to make really quickly, is that you do get penalized for trying to look natural. You do get penalized for trying to be yourself and trying to be you in your own skin.
Yeah.
I mean, professionally, yes, your blocks 10 years ago might have been a distraction, might have kept you from getting a job. You don't know.
Yeah.
But the other problem is that it's not just American culture, it's white dominance globally.
Yeah.
Because some of the best-selling beauty products are lighteners in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it's because of a constantly reinforced message. And you ask if it was generational, I mean, certainly 60s, 70s, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Angela Davis Fro was making a comeback. And so we've had to have these affirmations coming out of the 50s and 60s, in the 60s and the 70s. Then we had affirmations kind of fade away. I remember a button I saw in the 80s, happy I'm nappy, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. But now we're coming back to it where we're having to regain and regrasp that sense of pride and that sense of ownership that you are beautiful who you know
As
in
is.
your skin
Yeah.
and as
Absolutely.
is. And it's having to have this constant pushback, because even though that is coming from self, you do have institutions that will push back and try to denigrate it.
One quick thing about that too is you know, going back, for example, to the Nipsey funeral, there was a bit of controversy when one of the rappers exactly made this comment about raising beautiful light-skinned daughters, and so I you know, I love my brothers. However, okay, we gotta check that. Okay, we gotta check that. So what responsibility is it of our brothers to affirm us in the diversity of our beauty, and not only sort of look for the lightest, the brightest, the damn near whitest, to be able to say, oh, that's my image of black beauty?
It's on the brothers, no question. And I find myself even, you know, kind of trying to internalize it myself, where it's okay, you know, seems gorgeous sisters with dark skin that just is, make your heart melt. And embrace that, and do tell them that, you know what, your skin is just fine the way it is. You find yourself. And it's something that has to be conscious, because we have been socialized ourselves as African American men. We're scary, and in rejection of that, I have some friends who are exclusively going towards the light end of the spectrum, and I think that's kind of tragic. Talk to them about that. What's the issue? Why can't try to have a discussion about why that may not necessarily be the way to go.
Yeah. Wow. We still got a lot of work to do, y'all.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
So calling all HBCU alumni, students, and leaders, enter the Ford Motor Company HBCU Mobility Challenge and win $25,000 for your school. Building on their long-term support of HBCUs, Ford is looking to improve mobility in HBCU communities through innovative solutions. The winning program will receive a grant of up to $25,000 to implement their proposal. The deadline to apply has been extended to April 15th, that's Monday. So go to fgb.life for more information and to apply. Ford goes further in our community.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.